There is a lot of opportunity all across the board for the Oregon Ducks at a lot of positions entering this 2025 season. Defensive coordinator Tosh Lupoi called it a lack of Oregon experience, whether it's freshmen and recruits coming in, whether it's players that have been on this team for like a year and developing and getting into bigger roles, or whether it's transfers. There's a lot of opportunities. It's not just his defense. It's Will Stein's offense as well. And it's Alik Terry's offensive line that has some big questions entering this season. But my one big question for this offensive line is just how good do they need to be in 2025 for Oregon to accomplish what they want to accomplish? I think in order to really figure out what we need them to be, you need to really figure out who they are. First of all, Oregon has established themselves as a great offensive line team. Joe Moore Award Finalist the past two seasons. You go back to the 2023 season, they gave up only 4 sacks that year to Bo Nix. And if you look at over the last 2 years, they've had stud players, future NFL high-level draft picks like Jackson Powers Johnson. The center on that 2023 team was a top 50 overall draft pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. Josh Connerly in this year's draft slated to be a late first round, early second round, certainly going to slide in definitely to that top 50 type of range where Jackson Powers Johnson was drafted. Now, we need to figure out, is there an elite type of player like that on this Ducks offensive line? Now, of course, we said losing Josh Connerly, who is a fantastic player over there at tackle, and I think he's going to have a long career in the National Football League. What do you have at tackle? Now, there's been a lot of great things said about the potential at Oregon of someone like Isaiah World, who's transferring over from Nevada. But I think Isaiah is still a little bit raw, and I think it's maybe ceiling and potential that a lot of people are talking about with him right now, that he's got a lot of NFL measurables. He's got a lot of things that NFL scouts will certainly look for, and there's been differentiating opinions. Some people could see him as a first-round draft pick. Some people says, yeah, he's got a lot of work to do before we can start talking about those types of conversations right now as well. So, but then you look to the other side, you've got Alex Harkey, who's maybe a little bit more solidified, has had better coaching at Texas State. I'm not sure how high his ceiling is as far as a first or second round draft pick is concerned, but I believe this season the strength of the offensive line is the interior of the offensive line. And I think that's where you get to players that maybe could be in that top 50 or top 60 NFL draft type of conversation. Emmanuel Pranon transferring over from USC. He decided to come back to school because he wanted to play for a championship level team, and he's certainly going to get that opportunity to do that at Oregon. But I think he also came back to school to really rise up his draft stock even more. He was kind of slated after that season at USC where he was USC's best offensive lineman, about a mid-round pick, 3rd, 4th, 5th round, somewhere in there. And so I think he's got the potential, especially playing at Oregon with Alik Terry and this offensive staff, to really rise up those ranks, certainly. So I think he's somebody that could maybe get into that category and be that great to maybe possibly elite level offensive lineman in the Big Ten. Iapanilala Olu, Pancho, really the only returner, the captain of this offensive line in there at center, I think is another one. Like when you have the one really returning guy, returning starter is the center, the guy that's making all of the calls on the offensive line. Like if there's one position that I would like to have coming back on the O-line, I think it is that center position, certainly. I think he's possibly the best offensive lineman of this entire group. So I think those are the guys that you're looking for that could be elite level players. Going back to the offensive tackle spots, you're losing to Johnny Cornelius on the other side as well. I think your hope is that you can get the same or a little bit better from Eugene on the right side, and you kind of know that you're going to take a little bit of a step down at left tackle, but I think the thought is you're going to take a step or two up with what you have in the interior And hopefully that can balance out to maybe what you've had certainly in past years. Now, when we continue to talk about what this offensive line needs to be, we need to, as a fan base, as a collective group, we need to keep in mind that there will be a little bit of growing pains early in this thing. Like, as much talent as maybe they are bringing in, you're still bringing in 3 transfers. The offensive line, maybe more than any position in football, needs to act as one instead of acting as 5. You work with your teammates on double team blocks, on different things to be able to really form one unit. And you love to have guys that are familiar with each other. Oregon didn't really have that luxury. They didn't really have guys behind last year's starters to be able to step up that had been in this program for Oregon to continue to play at that level that they've been playing at. That's why they needed to go into the transfer portal to be able to get these guys. So you need to give these guys time to gel early in the season, especially in those 4 games pre-Penn State. I think the hope is that what you have at center. Okay, Oregon didn't know what they had at center, I think, in those first couple of games last year after losing Jackson Powers Johnson. Once they put Poncho in at center, hey, it got a whole lot better, didn't it? Yeah, it got a lot better. I think the hope is, okay, we know what we have. I think we know, who's going to play where. Whether it's Harkey, maybe Janoris Wilson over there at right tackle, whether it's Matthew Bedford or Dave Iuli, maybe over there at right guard. I don't know if there's going to be the shuffling that there was last year. I just think, I think you know what you generally have and who are generally going to be those players that are going to be starting on the O-line. I just think they're going to need time to gel together throughout these first couple of games. Your hope is that by the Penn State game, when you're playing that great defensive line, that these guys are pretty well on track to being pretty well gelled together, but that's certainly not guaranteed as well. Now that we've got that out of the way, what do we need from this offensive line? Specifically, let's start with the run game. I think by midseason, whether you want to call that the Penn State game, whether you want to call that the Indiana game, that's game number 6 as well, wherever you want to call that, but I think by the middle of the season, we need to see Poncho and Pranon being able to certainly hold their blocks and be able to move guys up front, because I'm really excited about this run game. I'm really excited about Mekhi Hughes and Noah Whittington and Dink Riggs, because I think that this run game could be really, 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 one more time, really good in 2025. And I think it depends a lot on the strength of the O-line, which I already said I think is going to be the interior of this group. So I think we need Poncho and Pranon to really be playing at that high level at that point in time, certainly. This whole offensive line as a group needs to not be pushed back. That's what you can't have. You need to be able to hold your blocks, because when you have guys like a Mekhi Hughes specifically, you watch him on film, once he gets to that second level against a linebacker, against a safety, against a nickel, against a corner, he's great at shedding tacklers. It's really tough to bring him down once you get to that second level. So if Oregon can get that initial stalemate or that initial push, that's going to help out the run game. So I think that's certainly what we need running the football from this offensive line. Pass game. I think this is where maybe things get a teeny bit interesting. Let's just put it that way. When you have Dante Moore at quarterback, I think, what do we know? I think the big part why maybe Oregon in 2023 had as much success as they did in pass protection, hey, they had some really good players. That's a first thing. But I think another thing is this is a very quick release type of offense. I certainly think you're still going to get that and a lot of that in 2025. Heck, it's really a staple of Will Stein's offense. But I think because of the arm talent and the players that he's going to be throwing to in this pass game, I think they're going to be going down the field a little bit more. So we need to see that these tackles can really hold up in pass protection so we can get the most out of Dante Moore. And this pass protection unit, this offensive line unit, really needs to be great early in the season so Dante can stay clean and so Dante can build confidence. I think one thing that could maybe be a slight detriment to Dante Moore and building that confidence and having him playing the best at the end of the season, if he's if he's hit a lot during this early season games, ball goes in the air, interception, things like that, he's going to be able to really build up his confidence, and you're really going to be able to reach possibly to the ceiling of Dante Moore if he is protected well by this offensive line, especially early in the season when the pass rush units aren't as good. Right? I keep on circling back to that Penn State game because they have great pass rushers. Dennis Sutton is one of those great pass rushers for the Penn State Nittany Lions as well. Overall, I don't think you need a Joe Moore Award finalist type of season. I think you need to be able to hold blocks for your running backs to get to the next level. I think you need to give Dante Moore time early in the season so that he can build that confidence, I think, throughout the season. And I don't expect them to really be a Joe Moore Award type of finalist offensive line as well. I think there's going to be a lot of gelling. You hear it a lot during this NCAA basketball tournament where it says, hey, this transfer is starting over the last 2 or 3 games, is really starting to play his best and hit his ceiling. You could see that a lot where you might not see this offensive line playing their absolute best until we reach the month of November because there's just so much gelling and cohesiveness that needs to be had, I think, with this group up front. But it should certainly be fun to watch the progression of what this offensive line does throughout fall camp and into the season, mid-season, late season as well. I think that this offense is just going to be just fine with this group that the Ducks have.